Brueggergosman. Let's keep that applause going for Measha. Candy Palmater coming in right now. Right? A little body check as you come in. Good. I get the message. I get the message. Hello, Candy. And our web live stream audience has tuned in. They are watching us, so maybe you guys could wave to them, make them feel. Web stream, say hi to the studio audience. Studio audience, say hi to the web.
Wow, what an audience. What a welcome.
So nice.
Thank you so much.
On the Book of Faces, they're watching.
And Chantal Kreviazuk, as many of you know, is with us from LA. Chantal, hi, how are you? Nice to see you.
Hi, absolutely.
Hello, good morning. Let's give her a nice round of applause.
Pretty in red today.
Thank you. Yes, I'm loving the color.
Red, yeah.
I think the ladies are turned up today.
Yeah,
I am so thrilled. We look gorgeous.
The ladies in the studio audience?
I was going to say it, but she already did.
Listen,
so.
I'm so happy you wore your formal golf shirt.
Yes.
This is not my golf
if you've
shirt.
been watching,
I haven't been allowed to wear my shirt the whole last 3 days.
When I walked in this building 5 years ago, I was like, does this work? And they were like, nothing works.
Yeah.
And then
every morning I walk in and
somebody.
the girl in wardrobe just goes, oh.
Yeah.
Come here.
Yeah.
You remember when Will Smith won Best Dressed at the Teen Choice Awards one year? In the interview afterwards, they said, how do you feel about getting this honor as Best Dressed Man? And he said, I just wear what Jada puts on the bed. It's as simple as that, yeah.
Listen, humble. Thank you so much for matching your turban to my lipstick. That was very good of you.
It's funny, I was thinking it was Candy Show Pink.
Candy Show Pink, Michelin, everybody.
Yeah.
It also matches his shirt.
It's all working. It's all working.
I mean, the lining of the buttons right there. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah?
And I mean,
I think,
Mama Africa.
Mama Africa.
Right.
That's all of us.
So exactly,
I heard that your underwear was pink, Ellie, so that's
let me think about that.
I saw
It was
it.
a long time ago that I put that on.
it suddenly turned into a show of a
I have
different
no
stripe.
recollection. All right, nice.
There's been a
Save
snort.
the snorts for the broadcast. Do not waste the snorts.
We're having fun.
I mean, the web, that's still wonderful.
We were at Allie's show last night at the Drake.
There were a couple of snorts, I think.
He put on this comedy show. It was incredible.
I mean, I didn't put it on. I hosted a comedy show with a
You
bunch
were
of
there,
other
and
friends.
I was only there because you asked me to come.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, it was your show.
Okay, all right.
And when I retell it, I'll be like the Alley show. But there were other people. They were so good.
I'll take it. Yeah.
They were so good. And I cannot believe, Candy, terrifying comedy as a stand-up.
You anymore? Do you get terrified?
I would terror.
No. Yeah.
No.
No, you get on and you own that stage.
You know what? I had thought I peaked in high school because I was an athlete until my undergraduate degree. And when you're a really great athlete, like you get so much accolade. And I mean, here I was, first Indigenous valedictorian of a law school, but I was like, oh, I peaked in high school. Like I didn't get any high off of being a lawyer. And the first time I did comedy at the age of 32, I said, oh my goodness, I have found my place. This is like the volleyball court, and it was amazing.
Right. I came out of the womb singing, so that worked out. I'm really glad, because I mean,
a lot of people describe that as crying, but okay.
Yeah, no. Opera singing is controlled screaming.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, I got it locked down, but it's essentially
Then my
screaming.
2-year-old might be an opera singer, as it turns out. But
both.
How
dare you put those confines on so soon?
S/HE.
Fluid.
Always good to start the show with a how dare you. Let's get the how dare yous out. Let's get the snorts out. I'm getting a request in my ear for another snort around minute 30 of the show.
Listen, I can't predict the snortage.
She agrees. She says she will do that.
10 seconds. Who? Can I ask who snorted?
Measha snorted. Of course, Chantal doesn't have visuals.
Measha!
Listen, it's always the pretty one.
Okay, here we go. Stand by 30 seconds there. Just to remind your guys.
It's day 3 of CBC's Battle of the Books. We started with 5 titles. 2 have been eliminated. 3 are still in the running. Which one will be the next to go? We will find out today. I'm your host, Ali Hassan. This is Canada Reads.
This is Canada Reads, Canada's annual title fight.
Hello and welcome. Joining me are this year's panelists, Measha Brueggergosman. Hello, Measha.
Hello.
Humble the poet.
Hello.
Hello, Humble. Candy Palmater.
Greetings and
Hello,
salutations.
greetings. Chantal Kreviazuk. Hello, Chantal.
Hello.
Jody Mitic.
Sir.
Hello, everybody. All right. Well, it was a tight vote yesterday. Chantal voted against Nostalgia by M.G. Vasanji. Humble voted against Company Town by Madeline Ashby. Measha voted against The Right to Be Cold by Sheila Watt-Cloutier. Jody voted against 15 Dogs by M.G. Vasanji. And that left Candy, who was
Andrea
it?
Alexis.
By Andrea Alexis, exactly right. And that left Candy to cast the deciding vote. And she chose to say goodbye to Nostalgia. And Jody, you were defending Nostalgia. In the Q&A after the show, you explained why you chose this book. We're going to play a clip of that.
It's not a secret. I stepped on a landmine, lost my feet, and my entire existence came to a halt. And Jody Mitic, the soldier for life, as far as I was concerned, was gone and eliminated without my choice. And I found the characters in here, some of them could choose to recreate themselves. And they did, and some of them were recreated without their knowledge. I kept coming back because I was like, what would I have done if I had this opportunity to enhance my body and recreate what I was? Would I go right back to that moment before the landmine? And often I say no because, I have daughters now and my life is better. Here I am. Like I wouldn't be here today, right? So anyway, that's why I picked my book.
Okay. Jody, any final words before we move on?
We're here for a competition. At the end of the day, the 5 books that are here are winners. We're winners. We were chosen. And to me, this is an honored position to be in. To just be here, I've met some great people, made some new lifetime friends. This book still has relevance, I believe, in today's world. The socio-political, the socio-economic, the identity, politics that are all in here are valid. And it's how you want to interpret it. And as I said, I had to reinvent myself, and it's a position I hope no one else has ever put in. I know many of us are, whether you have a job that becomes obsolete one day, imagine being a guy who makes horseshoes when the Model T rolled off the assembly line, or, you have to be able to find a way to overcome these obstacles. And so I found Nostalgia very deep for that type of thinking. So I just want to say thanks for letting me be here, for inviting me, and you guys letting me participate, and may the best book win.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that. Sounds like you're shedding that T-shirt, the second place T-shirt that you talked. What did it say on that T-shirt?
No, second place is still the first
loser,
Yeah.
right? But that what you just said there.
As much as I try to live,
back.
I try to feel that, it's a dichotomy in my mind. I want to win, but at the same time, I want to be a good loser.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's move into this. We've got 3 books left. Company Town, 15 Dogs, and The Right to Be Cold. And let's remind everyone what they're all about. So Measha is defending Company Town. Here is the trailer.
A giant rig squats off the coast of what used to be called Newfoundland. The oil has run out. It's a town fueled by one family's greed. Women are dying. Hua is a bodyguard. She's unique. 100% organic, no implants. She only has her taekwondo moves and her attitude. Hua is fighting for justice, and she can't be hacked.
All right. Measha, how do you like your chances today?
I want to be clear about how much I love reading, and I'm a huge fan of Canada Reads, of course. And I read for sport. And I think that what I love about the show in particular is that we are able to celebrate the joy of reading.
I'm not hearing anything about your chances.
My Company Town book
yes.
by my Madeline Ashby is a celebration of Canada Reads, and I feel like my chances are good because it checks a lot of boxes in terms of what we want from our readership and as a reader.
Right.
We can support, as the readership, a wonderful novelist who writes in a genre fiction.
Well, actually, I'm going to stop you just because you're going to have a chance to really talk about this book. I know.
You're right. I could monologue.
I know. I have no doubt. I have no doubt about it.
I'm sorry. I was literally the bad guy at the end of the film monologuing.
No, you will have a chance, absolutely. Now, Humble, we're going to move on to 15 Dogs. Humble is defending 15 Dogs. Let's play the trailer for that.
In a Toronto tavern, two Greek gods place a bet. Suddenly, 15 dogs in a nearby animal clinic begin to think like humans. They learn there's more to life than eating, running, and mating. They start thinking about time, death, God, poetry. They still have the old urges to survive, to dominate. What are the odds they'll die happy? Roll the dice.
All right, Humble, do you think you'll make it to the final round?
I mean, when your trailer is that adorable.
I want to get a Jack Russell puppy right now.
That's what I'm saying. It sells itself.
The only thing missing was the dog rolling around and sort of scratching itself. I guess.
Yeah.
Let's not forget they eat their own poo.
Right. Well,
Someone was going to go there, I guess.
That is also a metaphor
It was a beautiful
for life.
vision.
sounds like you like your chances. Can we sum it up that
yes,
way?
I love my chances.
All
Yes.
right. We're going to move on to the third book, which is The Right to Be Cold. Chantal is defending The Right to Be Cold. Let's play the trailer for that.
As a child, Sheila Watt-Cloutier traveled by dog sled. As an adult, she's traversed the globe, bringing urgent news from the north. The Arctic is polluted, melting. The Inuit way of life is shattering like so many promises. Silenced when young, she finds her voice.
We are in this together.
Speaking up to protect her people, her homeland, and our planet.
So Chantal, you're in an interesting situation because you had 2 votes against your book on day 1, and you are still here on day 3. Are you liking your chances?
Wow, that's a very loaded question.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I am liking my I mean, how do you respond to that? I guess because I'm still here, that does mean that my chances are good. But again, it's very hard for me to get into this place of competitiveness. And to be honest with you, the book, it comes from such a spiritual place. So I am just trying to, trust the universe and believe that this is all happening as it is supposed to. And I'm just going to stay in my flow.
That's great. All right. Thank you, Chantal. One of these books will be eliminated today, and one of them will win Canada Reads tomorrow. I'm Ali Hassan, and this is Canada Reads on CBC Radio 1 and Sirius XM. It's time to debate. Let's get to it. All right, today we want to stay focused on the book. So I want to take a minute to remind the 5 of you that what we are here to discuss is the books. We're not here to defend or attack anyone's personal politics. We're here to talk about 3 books. And I've got a lot of questions.
I'm planning on attacking your personal politics.
I can be attacked as much as you like. I'm effectively bulletproof. This jacket protects me from everything and anything.
That jacket is fine.
On radio, people are like, "What's the jacket looking like?" It's just incredible. I've never worn anything like it.
You have the pockets.
Measha can't stop touching it. That is one thing that I can tell you. So I've got a lot of questions here, and I want to get through them all, so be ready. We really do have to plow through on this show. This is an action-packed show. So Measha, Jody, and Humble, you are going to be part of a round 1 of our debate, and it's called Change My Mind, okay? Uh-oh. The 3 of you each cast a vote against one of the books that are still in the running. So today, the defenders of these books will get a chance to change your mind. Oh. Okay, number 1, Company Town, Humble. Why did you vote against Company Town?
Yesterday was an extremely action-packed episode, and I was trying to not only vote with my heart, but also gauge the room and kind of see where things were kind of going. And it's interesting that the two books that I voted against are the two last books standing in competition with mine. And
interesting is one word.
Yeah, interesting is the word I'm keeping.
Yes.
Yeah. And
why did you vote against it? What was the?
I think in the first day when I went against A Right to Be Cold, I felt like I was my issue was a lot of substance. It may not be enough readability or stimulation or entertainment factor, and I mean people want to enjoy reading.
Still looking for those exact.
And on the other side,
Yes.
I felt like with Company Town, I got the exact opposite. A lot of readability, a lot of whodunit, what's going to happen next, but did I get enough substance? So it was really about the pill and the applesauce, trying to find that perfect recipe.
Okay.
One book I felt like had a lot of pill, not enough applesauce. The other book I felt had a lot of applesauce,
Okay.
not enough pill.
I'm gonna stop you
If
there.
we're going to find the perfect balance.
I'm going to stop you there. Hilarious. He got his book up just at the very end to show it off. The reason I'm pushing you to come up with the exact reason for why you voted against it is because now I'm going to turn to Measha and give Measha an opportunity to defend her book and to change Humble's mind.
I was getting cavities.
I get it. You want your substance with your sweet, and I'm going to give it to you. Because frankly, I won't apologize for defending a book that advances at breakneck speed and provides moments of human satisfaction, intimacy, sex, and yes, even murder.
And indeed, no one is asking
And
you
I
to
don't
do
have to apologize for it because Madeline has crafted this entire society from the ground up that leads us to believe we can take it so seamlessly that it can be likened to something as light as The Young and the Restless, which, by the way, has been around for longer than climate change.
Oh, wow. I'll need a
The
fact
science
check
is
on
in on
that.
that.
But,
Scientific. But in terms like soap opera, let's not forget that soap opera is a misogynist's way of describing women in fiction. If a man falls in love, he has seen the light become enlightened and the rite of passage is complete. If a woman finds love, it's a sappy soap opera. And I think it's important to
That's not what I was saying at all.
establish these double standards and identify them because, you know, I don't want them casting
Oh my gosh,
shade on my
that's
Madeline.
overthinking, babe.
And this book contains humor.
That's-
Remember that? Remember humor? Everyone? Remember when we had that? Allie?
I've heard of it. I'm familiar.
This book
I've read about
has
it.
humor. It allows us to laugh. Daniel, the person who Hua falls in love with, and Zachariah Lynch laugh together. Zachariah Lynch at one point laughs at something that Hua says because the kids are around staring at them dumbfounded because he didn't program them to have humor. It's an incredible irony that can only be created in a sci-fi world where those parameters are in place. And I just want to address one last thing.
Well, I don't know, Humble. You got pushed through pretty quick there.
But someone said, and I'm looking at that someone, said that
She's looking at Candy, radio audience.
the book was dismissed for not containing any internal thought process. And the book is told from the first-person omniscient perspective. That is, by definition, an internal thought process. Everything is internal with Hua. And I think it's important to also recognize
the key. Okay,
I
all
got
right.
it. I
got to get these two in as well. And the reason we do this is because we've seen this already on Canada Reads, where people, their persuasiveness, their eloquence will get someone to change their mind. So I want to do that for these.
But I don't want this book to be dismissed because it doesn't have enough pill with the applesauce.
Okay.
There is substance there. It's just that the world is so seamless that you take it for granted.
Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on to 15 Dogs. Jody, why did you vote against 15 Dogs?
Great story. I loved it. But I'm here to win a competition, or I was until yesterday. Pressure's off, so throw that hat away. Much as when I voted against The Break, Candy, I was going to save this for tomorrow, but it was strategic. In my mind, you were my strongest competition. And that's why I voted against The Break. It had nothing to do with you or your politics or anything like that. It was just, I want to win, so I got to get rid of my strongest competition.
And so 15 Dogs.
So with 15 Dogs, it was the same thing. After her, I thought his book can fight my book on such a different level that if I'm down to the bottom, to the end, I mean, I got to debate Humble, who is a poet, who's very eloquent, and has a story that is much shorter, and all that. I didn't think I could compete on that level.
Okay.
So
That's interesting. So, Humble, basically, this is your opportunity to prove to Jody that you are not eloquent and you were not competent.
Yeah, I don't want to change his mind. It doesn't sound like I need to be
So I
changing his
voted
mind.
against you because I thought you were better than me.
Okay.
That's what you call military precision, right
Well,
there.
absolutely. That's strategy.
I got
and
the answer.
There are votes that have a strategic...
I don't want to change your mind, but I want to piggyback on what he said. I mean, I feel extremely fortunate that this book chose me. I am I'm a huge supporter of this book, and I feel like it's gonna go down in history with the likes of The Alchemist, The Lord of the Flies, 1984 Brave New World.
It already is in history. It's already been immortalized.
And I want it to be even more immortalized.
Greedy.
It's because I feel like, and I can read this book again in 5 years and take a whole bunch of new things from it. I love the universal element of it. I love trying to understand myself deeper on a human level. And it was exciting, and I do have a bias. I had a dog, and I haven't read a book in a long time that made me cry, and there's a couple tear stains on here.
Last thing,
all right.
It did have the crappy poetry, though.
It had crappy poetry. Now you can't add that at the end. He's done. All right. You will get a chance. You will get a chance for the poetry. I don't want to run out of time in this debate round. Certainly not in this round. Measha, as concisely as you can. Why did you vote against The Right to Be Cold? We're going to move on to that book.
I think it's important to reiterate that there is nothing wrong with any of these books. I mean, I don't want The Right to Be Cold to change itself. I don't wish it was anything else but what it is. But what it is, in comparison to the other books, is not as entertaining. It's not as engaging. I think it is incredibly essential, but I don't know that as I'm reading a career server, like she is, the servant heart of empathy that exists in Silawat Kluche is absolutely inspiring, and I'm thrilled that I know more about her. I have met her. I have spent time with her. I was on the Circumpolar tour with Adrian Clarkson with her, and I know the work that she's done.
Why did you vote against the book?
I voted
not
against
engaging,
it
not entertaining.
because when I pitted against the titans of Canadian literature that are also on this book panel, when I think of Katerina Vermette and M.G. Vasanji and Andre Alexis and, of course, Madeline Ashby.
Yes.
I just didn't see myself getting into it on a level that would see me recommending it over my book.
Okay, we're going to take that and throw it to you, Chantal. Chantal, this is your opportunity to change Measha's mind.
Okay, well, first of all, when you started saying that, you said that it wasn't as entertaining and it didn't make you feel engaged, but then you said it was essential. And the theme of this show is what is the book Canada needs, which can also be defined as what is essential to read right now. You know, what's interesting to me is that the books that I'm standing against by representing Sila's book are creating, using their imagination, another world. And the irony here is that Sila is doing the same. She is instilling in us the imagination of what the world could look like and really should look like and can look like, except that it's true. It's the truth. We do need to imagine what the world would look like if there wasn't starvation and hunger, and if there wasn't pollution, and if there wasn't a Trump hammer, if there wasn't missing and murdered women, and there wasn't, lack of running water in parts of Canada, and the values that Inuit and Aboriginal people have were brought to all of Canada and all of the world. She does bring us to this amazing possibility with her really beautiful writing. I don't think that it's not beautiful writing. I think she does write an engaging and literal, like a gorgeous piece within the text and truth and science that she also teaches us.
Okay, thank you, Chantal.
I think it's ironic. I think it's very ironic that she too is bringing us to an imaginary place with her writing.
Okay. Well, that is it for this round.
I felt like I really spoke too much in that round.
I mean, it's Candy, if you can just reel it in a little bit. I know.
Here.
Well, look, so we've heard from a number of you, not all of you, but to get some insight on the books that are left, let's hear from the authors.
My intent in writing it was to allow for anyone reading it, whether you're a young person, an older person, a woman, a man, a Canadian, an American, it didn't matter. The strongest emotion would be, I get that. I recognize myself in this book.
So that was the voice of Sheila Watt-Cloutier, who wrote The Right to Be Cold. So we've discussed inclusion and representation a fair amount this week. Is it more effective for a story to challenge the reader's worldview or to reflect it? I'm going to put that to you, Candy.
I think it depends on what you're trying to do with the book. I think there's a place in the world for both. With this book, for her to get the message across to us about how drastic this moment is, I think she had to give us, some of the parts, I'm absolutely going to agree that some of the parts, it was hard to read through. But do you know what? Her going out into the world to try to make this change was hard work. Dealing with the, what I call white tape of government was hard work. And she wanted to get that across by letting you know that through the story. So I think, again, it depends on what you are trying to do with the book. And I think Sheila was trying to both give us information, but also trigger us to want to take action.
Okay, Chantal, can I put that to you? Is it more effective for a story, or more important for a story, to challenge the reader's worldview or to reflect it?
You have to be able to do both. One of the greatest moments for me where that actually occurred, where I felt like, oh wow, that's really relatable to how I think, but it expanded me, was when she brought up, she quoted Gary Zukov, the seed of the soul, and she talked about the personality of Gaia, which is the soul of the world. And how each nation is an aspect of the personality of the soul, and that the soul of the world itself, it is, like we are, is continually growing. And she said, what she did was she reminded me who I was as a Canadian. She let me know, okay, you Canadian people, you have a very specific trait, aspect to the soul of this world. And what can it be right now? And I thought, wow, that's brilliant that you reflected that at me right now while I am reading this book. And you remind me in this book that, Canada is 43% Arctic, has the most Arctic, and we have a responsibility to do something. How is the Arctic polluted when the Arctic itself doesn't emit any pollution? What's up with that? Okay. And so, she said, hey, Canada, this is your moment. She spoke to me and expanded me and actually made me believe in something bigger. And that's tough. I'm a science girl, and she brought that out.
Okay, thank you, Chantal.
It was very powerful.
Thank you. I want to put that to Jody as well, because you did touch on that.
What's that?
This week. The idea about, is it more effective or important for a story to challenge the reader's worldview or to reflect it?
I'm a geek of history and politics, obviously, being a politician, but I try to look for things that challenge. I find reflection, I think Humboldt said it yesterday, the echo chamber effect can happen. Right. It's easy to read something that you agree with, and so I would rather look for something that gives me not necessarily a challenge like, what you think is wrong, but maybe you should think down these lines, or maybe what you've been told isn't what has happened. History continues to grow. 10 years ago was, I think, 6,000 years was recorded history. Now I think we're up to 30,000, they're thinking. Humans have been on this planet a long time, and we're very adaptive, versatile creatures. But, I look for challenge. But don't get me wrong, on occasion, I just love to read a great little popcorn novel for my brain as well,
Okay. All right, for this section of Author Tape, let's move on to 15 Dogs. Here is Andre Alexis.
I understand when people see the violence in relationship to animals, that they feel distress for the animals. But in effect, the human world is a great deal more violent than 15 Dogs is. And it would be a better world if we could feel the distress that we feel when bad things happen to animals, when bad things happen to human beings.
All right, so all 3 books on the table include violence, not just 15 Dogs. Violence can be an effective storytelling tool, but can it go too far? Measha, I want to ask you that.
Well, I am incredibly sensitive to violence. I found that's probably why I was so moved and slightly put off by the break. There were portions of that book that I know are meant to make me feel uncomfortable, and it is the literary device used in order to elicit a reaction. And I think that used in the right context, the violence in Company Town pushes the plot forward by making us empathetic to these women who've been marginalized and cast off by a society, for all intents and purposes, that is supposed to be modern and forward-thinking, but it still can't protect its women. And in homage, of course, to the missing and murdered Indigenous women of this country, Madeline Ashby uses the violence to make us care. And in those cases, I'm okay with its presence.
Okay. Now, Humble, you're an obvious choice to speak to next because 15 Dogs does have a fair amount of violence.
I think the big question should be, why are we sensitive to violence? You know, we are now in a world where violent occurrences statistically are lower than they've ever been, but our sensitivity to them has gone higher. And I think that is part of this human condition. Why, now that we live in the safest time we've ever had as a species, why have we become so sensitive to it? And these are the important questions. And now, an example in the story, Atticus decided, as a leader of the pack, that Prince using poetry was unacceptable, and to the point of frustration where he decided he needs to die. We need to kill him. We need to use violence. And it's not simply good dog versus bad dog, good guy versus bad guy. In any of these situations, being a history buff, you start to realize the deeper you dig into these world conflicts, it's not simply about these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. There's much more complex things going around. And violence becomes a solution at what point? Is it ever the first thing? Was it, you know, even in the story, first he's forbidden. When he can no longer respect that command, violence is used. And I feel that digging deeper and trying to understand why we have these feelings will help us realize why these things continue to occur. As a school teacher,
I think in 15 Dogs, the violence occurs as a way to maintain control, and in Company Town, it's something that is reacted to.
I agree.
Can I weigh in?
Right? I wanted Candy
It's an interesting, like, there's two perspectives.
Can I just make one quick point on the violence?
Yeah, and then I'll let Candy get in because
I
we were talking about
completely
the break
agree
as
when you
well.
say the violence is used to maintain control. And the question is, why are they going to violence to maintain control? Because they may not have the other devices. As Jody brought up yesterday, I am happy to be in a country where we're using our words to settle differences instead of violence. When I was a school teacher, many of the times when the kids resorted to fists, it's because they were so frustrated they didn't have the words to bring things out.
I have a 4-year-old. I know that.
If he had the
Candy,
words,
I want to turn to Candy, but Candy,
violent.
right before you speak, I see your book is in hand, and Measha kind of set you up, but we are going to focus
I'm not
on
talking
the
about
three.
my book.
Oh, you're
I
just
wanna talk
caressing
about
your
15
book.
Dogs.
Okay, all right.
I caress my book all the time, but I will hold this one.
Your opportunism is just something to behold.
Listen, when I think about books, I touch my shelf. I'm just saying. That warrants a round of applause. Thank you. Yeah, I am not going to defend what was just said about the break. Somebody asked me yesterday if I would write an op-ed piece, which I will do about the break because I think that argument had holes. However, in terms of 15 Dogs, when I went to speak about the break at the Halifax Library, I talked about how what Gord Downey is doing right now is great, but you're thinking about a kid that died 50 years ago, 12 years old on a track, and everybody can say that didn't have anything to do with me and I feel bad for them, and so, oh, and that's lovely. But some of those kids survived. And they lay on the street here in Toronto, and they lay on the street in Winnipeg, and people step over them. So people can feel for that 12-year-old that is almost fictional now because so much time has gone by, but they can't feel for that 65-year-old on the street. I think it was brilliant what Andre did, wanting to talk about violence within society, knowing that people don't care about those people dying on the street, but people are going to care about these beautiful, big, dewy-eyed dogs. And it was lovely to have him make that statement beforehand about the fact that, yeah, people care about what's happening to animals, but are you caring about what's happening to humans? And if I can say just one more thing, I think we have to keep in mind that we are in some way comparing apples to oranges because we have a nonfiction book going against 2 fiction books. So 2 of the books are meant for entertainment, and one of them is not meant for entertainment.
Although it is part memoir as well, as Sheila Watt Cloutier's
That's still nonfiction.
Let's move on to Company Town. Let's give Company Town the time that it's due. Here is Madeline Ashby.
In many ways, she sort of floats through the city like a ghost or like a blur. There's a markedness, not just as a result of the syndrome, but also the fact that she's Korean in Newfoundland, and that she's also of mixed race, and that she's also doesn't know who her father is. And so I wanted to talk about like what it felt like to be on the outside and what it feels like to never be seen for who you truly are, and to suspect that if people did, they would reject you.
Okay. We've talked a lot about identity here, who we identify with, who other people identify us with, and what it means to be included or excluded. That has also been a conversation at this table. So can a story include you in an experience that you are excluded from in life? Jody. I can say that again.
Yes.
Yes. Can a story include you in an experience that you are excluded from in life?
Well, I guess I would say it's almost like an opposite question to the one you asked first about the reflection versus, what was it? Challenge?
Yes.
So I would say I guess it's a personal decision that you make when you open the book. And depending on your attitude going in, in this context, I think, when you're going in to read a book and you want to defeat it, ultimately, you might choose to not include yourself, which would be why, one of my criticisms against The Break was one of the first things I read about was, the white men say bye in a way that makes you mad. So I'm looking for that criticism. So maybe that made me take a step back and put me on a back foot. But ultimately, the story is very relevant to the social issues we face here in Canada. And I'm not from that world. I have no idea about we all read about it. I grew up a white guy in a Brampton suburb, in the suburb of Brampton, sorry. So I need stories like The Break to help me identify with my fellow Canadians. So I think it's a personal choice, but depending on the context of how you're going into the book, I think is how you'll feel.
I want to go to Chantal over here, wanted to weigh in.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're touching on it there, Jody, but the reality is that interconnectedness is the most, I think, reflected in The Right to Be Cold. And Candy, you kind of went there as well when you said there's people, laying on the street now, or there's violence, and we can relate that back to how the Inuit way of life has been chipped away at and is being eliminated. And by doing so, we end up with more suicide. We end up with hunger. We end up with feeling apathetic. Like, what do I do? What do I do? Okay, so that boy did, he died 50 years ago. I wasn't there. It wasn't my fault. Okay, that person's laying on the street. It's not my fault. But the reality is that here we have a true story. We have science proving the interconnectedness of others' ways of life, other people's cultures, the meaning of them. We can not only celebrate those cultures, redeem ourselves, do some reconciliation, but then we can also learn from them and see, okay, well, why was it working so well for this culture to have their way of life, their traditional way of life? And so I think that this theme that's going on today of interconnectedness and seeing ourselves in the characters in the book and in these stories, to me, we are each other. We are essential to each other. And I don't think there's a book that shows us that idea more than Sela's book.
Okay, because this was about a company town, I wanted to have Measha weigh in on that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the isolation that Hua feels and the fear of rejection that she lives with based on the ongoing abuse that she experiences from her own mother. this is an incredibly personal story to which a lot of people can relate. And even if you can't relate, there is enough empathy generated through Madeline Ashby's writing in a world where people are so disconnected because of technology, which is a direct reflection of now, in the direness of a world where we have depleted all of our natural resources and are frantically looking for ways to just survive. Company Town takes you to the brink of human existence and asks you to find a way to create community and to make a difference and to fight for justice. And it doesn't end in a way that gives anybody any kind of answers. The genre-like quality of the sheen of sci-fi allows us to be entertained and educated at the same time, because the world is so phantasmic, but the characters are right next to you. They're the people you see every day.
All right. Thank you, Measha. Thank you, all of you. That's it for that round. Okay. This is the third round of the debate. We're going to social media for this. We're going to hear from people who've been reading these books and listening to these shows. We're going to hear from a few Canadians who've been sharing their thoughts online. I guess we can call this the mean tweets round.
Nice.
Not that
Twitter's
mean. It's
so
Canadians
balanced,
at the end of the day. We're still all right. So number one, let's start with Company Town. On Facebook, Noraline Thomas says, Company Town is inclusive, but I didn't feel that most of the characters were really three-dimensional. Measha, your response to that?
I don't think that that's unfair. I think Hua is by far the most fleshed out character, but she protects a teenage boy who does fall in love with her in his way. He's awkward and gangly. He is, you know, a misfit and a high school student, but he's brilliant, and he is the target of his siblings because they're jealous of him because he will inherit everything. And then even from the future, he's getting shade from all sides. And we're seeing this all through the first-person omniscient point of view of Hua, which is why it feels like the characters aren't fully fleshed out, because we only see them through Hua. And Daniel, who Hua describes in greater detail because of her love for him, and that's how we know she's in love with him, because she can't stop talking about him. She can't stop describing how his voice feels in her body. Zachariah Lynch is her boss, so he is noticeably distant and notably distant from her because she has to maintain that distance because he's the one who pays her bills. I think all of the distance that we feel to the characters in the book is created on purpose because we see them through the omniscient perspective of Hua.
Okay, all right. That's hopefully Noraline Thomas on Facebook
Noraline Thomas,
is
I hope
happy
that
with that.
answers
Did you
your
want to
question.
respond to that as well, Candy?
No, well, I mean...
Candy did not want to respond to
Well,
something.
no, because that question,
I wanted
that
to
question
know
was...
how your wife responded to the book, because you recommended it so highly to her.
No, I did, and then I told her not to by the end. Because,
that's interesting.
Because at the end, I did feel like it got soap opera-y.
Because she fell in love.
But the notion.
I want to know
oh
what
my
was
goodness,
soap
you were
opera-y.
just speaking for 15 minutes. I've got a minute to talk.
Go ahead.
Just let me get my point.
Well, she's
in,
asking,
if you
was it
will.
because it was soap opera?
Well, you know, if I'm allowed to speak, I will actually express for myself what I feel.
Yes.
The notion of the theme of this year. If you asked me, somebody will come and give me whatever I would like to eat right now. Hands down, every time, moose meat poutine. Moose meat poutine, drowning in ketchup with a big cold beer.
Right.
If you ask me to pick a meal that every Canadian should eat, it's not going to be moose meat poutine. So for me, Company Town was delicious on some level, like moose meat poutine.
I want to say that that's one of the best, most Canadian analogies that I've ever heard.
You will
I'm gonna go get some moose meat poutine right after the show.
And a beer.
You will find, Ellie, that if you give me a minute to speak, I've got all kinds of gold
All right.
there.
Well,
but
moving on. That's a bad time for you to ask for that minute, because now we got to move on.
Well, hang on,
Thank
Candy.
you.
You didn't get stepped on a lot yesterday, so.
Thank you.
15 Dogs is next. All right, we'll turn to 15 Dogs, and on YouTube.
I'm hungry.
Courtney Pickles. This is hilarious. So somebody's name is Courtney Pickles here, just to add to your hunger. That sounds made up, like there's a Johnny Mustard who's going to ask the next one. Courtney Pickles said, the conclusion that all humans are horrible is really upsetting. Humble, what would you say to that?
I don't understand where that conclusion even came from. Is it my book or somebody else's?
That's, I mean, that is what Courtney is reading into 15 Dogs. Because of the spoiler alert murders that occur. And
I don't see it that way. I feel that it was quite the opposite. I think it showed that we have a lot of redeeming qualities. I think it also showed the fact that the reason we have many problems in this world isn't because people don't care, is that because people do care about different things. Some people care about their bottom line more than a sustainable environment. Some people care more about their SUV than the environment. Some people care more about getting attention than they do than preserving self-respect. Or some people care about their own personal interests versus the interests of their community. I think it's a conflict of interest which creates a lot of these issues that we have in the world. And I think this book illustrated that beautifully. And it was never about dismissing everybody as horrible. If anything, it helped me develop empathy towards people who think, look, act, and feel very differently from me.
Do you have something to add to that, Jody?
Him saying that, and I don't know, what's her name again?
Courtney Pickles.
I only remember
Maybe
Pickles.
just Courtney. We'll go
Courtney.
by
We'll go Courtney.
Yeah.
So, even if you look at Atticus, who is laid out to be the bad guy, more or less, at the end, of his life, he was becoming religious. He had a huge regret over what had happened. Was he being hasty? Had he made the wrong decision? But he thought he was making the right decision for his community. So, the dichotomy of the human condition, like, it was interesting during the part about violence. I wasn't asked because I've dealt with a lot of violence, and I see it, I've been there when someone you may have done harm to a minute ago, you're giving them your canteen. And so that's the beauty of the human condition. We're not terrible. We're wonderful, but at the same time, we have the inclination to go to terrible places when we feel it's necessary. So I think it's an unfair criticism of 15 Dogs.
Okay, well, I hope Courtney is satisfied with that answer.
Is it the counter to Mira that Courtney might be referring to? Her partner beats Majnun.
No, he doesn't.
He has some resentment.
No,
he has some resentment, but I mean...
And when he starts to speak...
But even as well, it's the violence...
Or is it Majnun who's with Mira?
Yes.
And her partner doesn't respond well when he gets freaked out.
He puts the first dog out.
Yeah, well, he got excited.
Okay, guys, we're going to have to move on to Right to Be Cold. The final book on the table.
I thought it was a discussion.
On Twitter, sometimes it definitely is. This time we've got goals. On Twitter, Allison Watson said, "It's true, The Right to Be Cold was a hard read and did have too much info. I can't imagine many people would get through it." Chantal, how would you address that?
And didn't have much info?
No, had too much.
Did have too much info.
Okay, I don't even, I mean, how do you respond to that? The person is saying that they got so much information that it was too much information, but that they didn't think it was a good read. I mean, I don't even know how to try to convince somebody that they can be well informed from a book, but it's a bad book. I mean,
I think it goes back to when you've read 4 fiction books and then you read a nonfiction book. It's a completely different experience in terms of...
I was going over the notes.
Okay, well, can I speak? Because can I
Absolutely.
say more?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. It doesn't make me angry. I'm just a little frustrated because I get that there's the middle part of the book. She does go into the science of things. But if she didn't go into the science of things, then people would just have called it a memoir and they would have said it was an opinion or that it was this another, perspective that could be debunked or whatever about climate change or about the environment. So what she does is she tells us her riveting story of relocation, diseducation. She tells us about the abuses. She tells us, how about was anybody so moved when she tells the story of the RCMP coming to the doors of all of the homes up north and and offing. Speaking of offing dogs, I was bawling. I'm a dog person. I didn't bawl in 15 Dogs Over It, but in the real story, where the dogs that are the livelihood of the Inuit people were offed in front of their children, in front of their masters, their owners. This is real. This was, you would think it was fiction. I found the story absolutely engaging and riveting, and I disagree.
Thank you, Chantal. Thank you, Jody. I'm going to leave the last point to you. We have to get to the vote.
Just real quick, that's the wrong information we're talking about. As my mom, she wrote the notes, huge Sheila Cloutier fan, was so excited to read the book. There was just too much information not about Sheila in the book. Sheila, sorry.
There's tons about Sheila.
And that's the information that people are talking about. And that's the information that I was turned off by. And that's the information that my mom, she is Sheila, except.
Well, then we didn't read the same book. She talked about her whole life. She talked about not being able to go back to her
I'm telling you what my mom said right now.
Okay, hold on, Chantal. Chantal, just 1 second. I just want to hear the end of this response.
I wanted someone else to read it to go, did I have the wrong impression of this book? And she said, what Sheila is talking about when she's talking about Sheila is awesome. But there's all this other stuff that we don't need to know that's in the book. That's all. That's the information everyone's talking.
Okay, we have 30 seconds left, Chantal. I think you'd like to address that?
Yeah, I would love to. I just, I'm not biased because I didn't go into the book not the same way I went into the other books. I went in to read and decide if I liked the book. I did very much. I found there to be a story.
To the vote, Chantal. I'm sorry. We have to get to vote. We're out of time for that round. And that is it for debates.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That was so fast.
I mean, without your own knowledge, you revealed a ton of great information about your books. That is it. All right, no more time to debate today. It's time to make a choice. There are only 3 books left on the table in front of you. But only 2 can move on to the final day of Canada Reads. So, mark an X beside the book that you want to eliminate.
Yesterday's book is still on the ballot.
Well, that's not.
All the books are still on the ballot.
No, mine's not.
On my ballot.
We have this conversation every time.
Isn't that crazy? Every single day.
They just make copies. Okay.
Which title will be eliminated
really
today? That's what we want to know. Will it be Company Town by Madeline Ashby? Measha Brueggergosman hopes not. Will it be The Right to Be Cold by Sheila Cloutier? Not if Chantal Kreviazuk has anything to do with it. 15 Dogs by Andre Alexis. Humble the Poet wouldn't like that. The 2 titles have already been eliminated. As many of you will know, The Break by Katharina Vermette. Candy Palmater was defending that novel. And Nostalgia by M.G. Vasanji, and that was Jody Mitic's book of choice.
I'm having trouble here.
All right, well, you got
2 scenarios playing out in my mind, and I'm trying to figure out which one I want to see more.
The strategy comes into play. For those of you who are maybe wondering about, which books have come out on top in past years, last year was The Illegal by Lawrence Hill, right? And Lawrence Hill was a 2-time winner, right? Were you influenced by him? You come back 2 times as a 2-time panelist.
2-time loser.
Well, never mind that
Not
part,
yet.
right? Not yet.
I'll get you a T-shirt.
In 2015, it was Haru by Kim Thuy, and Cameron Bailey defended that book. In 2014, it was The Orenda by Joseph Boyden, which was defended by Wab Kinew. And sometimes you win, and then you come back as a host. Wab was a host on this show. And then decided to go into politics. I mean, some people, just the underachievers in the world, you know.
I mean, the obvious
just don't want to do a lot with their
sniper
life.
to politics is clear, but broadcasting to politics, that doesn't happen.
And I'll go back as far as 2013 because my good buddy Trent McClellan, he defended the book February by Lisa Moore. So those are also, some of you, speaking of overachievers, have read all these books and are looking for your the next titles that you want put in front of you.
And for Canadians that don't know, your friend Trent is one funny man.
He's a very, very funny man.
Very funny man.
Yeah.
All right. And there's claps for Trent McClellan, which we appreciate.
He's incredible.
Hashtag claps for Trent.
Okay, I have the ballots. I have the ballots in front of me. Let's go through this, everybody.
Boom, boom.
Humble the Poet. How did you vote?
Why am I going first?
The main reason is because your card is here in front of my eyes.
That makes sense. I came into this wanting it to be a wash because both books are still in existence. I tried to vote out before. I guess for me, education is not filling a mind with information, it's lighting a fire. And I voted a right to be cold.
The right to be cold. That's one vote against the right to be cold. All right, Candy Palmater, how did you vote?
As I said, if I'm looking for a moose poutine, I would pick it up. If it's the book that all Canadians have to read, it's not The Company Town.
Okay.
So who'd you vote for?
One vote against that. She voted against moose poutine, Measha. Pay attention.
Where do we get moose poutine?
I'll make that for you
After
sometime,
this.
my friend.
I want one.
I'd really like to keep the tension up and then talk about moose poutine later, if you guys are okay, huh? That's what the listeners
There's
of
been enough
this.
tension.
People just leave their radios and go searching for this poutine. I'd like them to stick around, and I'd like to remind them that we have one vote against the right to be cold and one against Company Town. All right, next up, Measha Brueggergosman, how did you vote?
I'm not going to keep people in suspense. I voted for the right to be cold.
Okay. That is 2 votes against
Comes as a shock.
the right to be cold. 1 groan from our studio audience. Chantal Kreviazuk, we have 2 votes against the right to be cold. We have 1 against Company Town. How did you vote?
I voted against Company Town. It just doesn't move me. And doesn't make me feel like it's the book that Canada needs to read, which is our theme.
Okay. We have 2 votes against the right to be cold and 2 votes against Company Town. This is the tiebreaker, Jody Mitic.
Oh, Jody.
How did you vote?
Okay, so my hand was shaking when I, and I don't get nervous very often, but
I get it. Hand shaking.
hand was shaking.
Oh my
yeah.
God,
So,
it's killing me.
anyway,
This man was a sniper in the military, by the way. His hand really does not shake. So that's a big deal.
I was playing things out in my mind, and frankly, Chantal has really surprised me today. But ultimately, I voted against the right to be cold. But because, as much as I was impressed today, at the end, I was hoping to get a little bit of give on her end as to why the book was being criticized, and she wasn't able to do that. So I voted against.
To sum it up, the right to be cold has been eliminated. All right, that is. I would love to hear Chantal. I know that this is an important book to you, and it remains important. There's no doubt about that, but I would like to know how you're feeling right now in the last 30, 40 seconds that we have left.
Well, I think it's really sad that that's the reason Jody gave it the vote, his reasoning that I didn't give any give. I think that the give is obvious. It's all the information in the book that people have been opposed to or not responding to. It hasn't made them feel compelled. I feel that was stating.
But that's the reason.
Sorry, not to be cold. Pardon the pun. But Captain Obvious, we do know that's the problem. That there's
Chantal,
all this information.
That
but
is
I've been fighting
unfortunately
for that information to be part of the.
Okay, and we gotta go. That is it for today. The final 2 books remaining are 15 Dogs and Company Town.
Do we get to do a little poll?
We are 1 vote away from choosing the winner of Canada Reads 2017. Thank you, as always, to our panelists, Measha Brueggergosman, Jody Mitic, Candy Palmater, Humble the Poet, and Chantal Kreviazuk. They'll all be back tomorrow to make one last decision. I'm Ali Hassan. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, read on, Canada.
more 15 dogs again.
Two more.
But anyway.
Okay. Oh, we are
Well,
back
then
to
that-
our
that's
web
why-
audience. We're off radio, but our,
So you
our
know
live
how the
stream
vote's
audience
going
is watching
tomorrow
on
from
CBC and Facebook and
Tomorrow's
YouTube.
another day.
Tomorrow is another day. We throw this to questions to the crowd typically. Do we have questions from the audience right now? We have a question up there.
No high school
And these
kids today.
questions, by the way, can be for the panelists. They can be about the books, or they can be for the panelists themselves. They can be personal questions.
They can?
Go ahead. Lisa,
How
you know
dare
about
you.
this, huh? You were supposed to be prepared for anything.
She's going to ask if we let her.
This is for Humble the Poet. Earlier, the idea that society cares perhaps a bit more about animal violence compared to human violence. What do you think the impact of the book would be if the title had been 15 cows or 15 pigs or chickens? Do you think the idea of it being a dog was really essential?
I think the idea of it being dogs was super important. I think historically, going back thousands of years, dogs and humans have naturally formed a codependent relationship with each other. And whether you're a dog person or not, you recognize that. It is extremely codependent, and it's worked out a lot. So I think the empathy that comes towards seeing these dogs suffer, seeing them deal with the burden that we have to deal with, I think it definitely emotes a lot of empathy. And that's the whole goal of the book. The goal of the book is to strengthen your empathy muscles.
Right,
But you make a
15
great
pigs
point
would have
by
been a
simply
struggle
asking
for
the
Muslims
question.
and Jews also.
15 pigs.
And then
15 parakeets would have just been
15, yeah,
messy.
it's not. I think it's a great point that the dogs do, even dog person or not dog person. We've humanized this particular animal, so it's.
We got a history. We've been through a lot together.
But I think the point she's making is a lot of us are dog people, but turn our head to the way that pigs and cows are treated,
Well,
and chickens are treated. I assume that, yeah.
Can I just say, I'm not a dog person, and I don't know, it's not because I don't like dogs, it's just because I have children, and I know that there are people who have children with dogs, but I only felt like this connection to maybe, they grew in my belly. So I have that connection, and of course, anybody who's a parent knows that it's just one of those connections that you don't know is as intense as it is until it happens.
Sure.
And so when the dog analogy comes along and they're made to speak, and given consciousness, I kind of think of them in relation to my sons, because I see them growing into their own consciousness, and I can't help but compare the two. And so I found the exercise very interesting, but I never connected to it. The first time I picked it up a year and a half ago, I didn't finish it. But the web people are on board. But I would say this tomorrow again too. I didn't finish it the first time I picked it up. I finished it for Canada Reads.
Okay, we have two more audience questions standing by, so let's get here. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My question is for Candy, actually. The Break, unfortunately, that's the one book I could not personally finish because of the violence and because I have a daughter, and it was too personal, I felt. And also, there's a trigger warning right there in the front of the book. So do you think it will reach the audience it's supposed to reach because of the graphic language used and the violence described?
I think it can. I totally acknowledge that experience and respect people who can't get through it, which is why Katerina wanted to be careful and put that trigger in the front. But it is the experience of a lot of people. And for me, I was moved by how, as I travel around the country, because I live my life on the road, how many particularly Indigenous people said to me, "Oh my God, that's my auntie. Oh, that's my cousin. That's my family. And so it's now. It's not that was my family 50 years ago. No, that's my family." So for me, when it comes to the idea of a book being able to help mend and heal, and how these women held one another up, and showing the importance. I don't think you have to be Indigenous to read this book and feel the importance of your auntie and your mama and your grandma and your cousins. And this book really did did that, but it also shone a light right from the very beginning when she's just describing the community, and she says it's big, tired houses on tiny little plots because it was made when you needed to own so much land in order to vote, and these plots were just a few inches short. So she's giving you the political and legislative history of our experience, which is still today. I mean, I have a little card in my wallet that tells me who I am, and who I am is different from who my parents are because of the legislation. So yes, I understand that there are some people who can't get through it, but I would also argue that, you know, our kids go on video games all the time and shoot people and kill people, and we don't even bat an eye to that. So when the violence is something that is really happening in people's lives right now, I think it has to be put out there, even if it can't be read by everyone.
Thank you, Candy. We have another question over here.
My question is for Measha, and it's concerning the fact that today is the first time that I've heard you mention Joel in Company Town.
Yeah.
And in my feeling, our future is our children and education, and especially with Humble being a former teacher, of course, that would be a big fact for me. And I wonder why you haven't played more on that fact that Joel is our future.
I am so saving that for tomorrow. How dare you reveal my strategy?
How dare you give me a strategy also? No, I'm
The
joking.
fact is that Joel is the secret weapon because he's the center of the book. Joel is everything about Company Town because he represents the future in so many capacities, because that's how it exists in Company Town. We have several futures that we can look towards, and he is the pivotal piece. And he also represents, for us now, a new kind of leadership that our kids will be looking to, because our leaders who will take us to the next level of consciousness or the future that we can all believe in won't look like the leaders we have now. I mean, I know Joel is tiny and white, however, he is a sprite amongst giants. And it is his mind that needs to be safeguarded and protected and encouraged to develop. And a mind is a raceless thing. And I think that that's important because I don't think how I do based on the limitations that were placed on me. I think how I do based on the opportunities that were given to me. And I seized them and I ran with them. And I think we have to have characters like Joel who are protected by virtue of the fact that within them lies the future of everything. And I think our children need to be made to feel that way more.
Thank you. In the back. We have another question in the back here.
My question is for anyone who wants to answer it. I'm wondering, panelists, if you can speak at all to the challenge between wanting to defend your own book and the strategy involved in that, and staying true to the theme of what the whole competition is kind of about. I guess springboarding based off of kind of what just happened, where it seemed like the content of the book didn't inform the decision so much as the debate kind of did. If you have any thoughts about what's
Chantal,
that
can I throw that to you?
Yeah, actually, that pertains to exactly what I'm dying to say right now.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that question. And ultimately, it's me wanting to respectfully throw it back to Jody, because I'm starting to feel like there was just more of a strategy in place to oust my book today, or Celia's book today. That's just a feeling I have, and no judgment, maybe. It's just a feeling I have. But I'm just wondering, how is it that I'm analyzing, and I haven't actually heard Measha or Humble say anything negative about their own book today at all. They've been defending their books beautifully. But my book, it was a requirement apparently when Jody, you were deciding your hand was shaking and you didn't know how to vote me off because I was defending my book so well, but that I didn't say anything bad about my book or negative, and so I ended up getting voted off. I don't understand that, because I thought everybody did a wonderful job of debating their book and trying to be true, like our question was here by the audience member, being true to the fact that they are defending a book, but that they debated it well, and was also trying to be true to the content of the book. So Jody, I'm just wondering what it was about me not saying negative things about my book that caused you to want to vote mine off.
Although in Jody's defense, there were 3 votes not just Jody, Chantal, right? So there were, Jody, I will let you respond
but
to
his
that.
was the deciding vote. His was the deciding vote, and he said that it was because I didn't get negative at all about
That's the order in which I read them.
I'd like to address
But
the
that's
question
not, that's
after
not
Jody's
the fact
answer.
that he was the deciding vote. That's just the cards come to me in that
We're
order,
still
and then
getting
that's
to
the
it.
way I read them.
I have an answer to your question.
So I guess this is day 3.
Yes.
So Chantal's theme of defense has been the same for all 3 days. These two have, when criticized or questioned on their books, has said, good point, I see that, but, and they give a counter. And the criticisms against A Right to Be Cold from everyone that we've heard from, and even in the tweet, was about, I believe it was a tweet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's too much peripheral information, is how my mom put it. And it's a common issue with autobiographies. The one that Brandy or Candy has talked about so much that I wrote, the one I wrote sucked. My editor made it what it is. And that's all. And all I was hoping for was a little give from the debater, the person representing the book, who is very much a part of this contest. That little tiny bit of give, because that debate between whoever had won between these two and you with the way you are defending the book today would have been, in my mind, a really great ending to the show. But that's all. And you know, it's fine. You know, it's anyway.
Allie, can I address her question?
Sure.
So your question about voting on the merit of the book meeting the theme versus the strategy. I said on cue before I came in that I wanted to vote just on the books, and I hope the panelists would do the same. And that was my plan coming in. I had ordered the books, put them in order. I listened to all of my co-panelists when they went on cue. In their arguments, I had mentioned before, Humble's book moved up for me when the argument was made. I will be absolutely honest, when I sat down on this table, and I've watched this show for all the time it's been on TV, when I sat down on this table on Monday, I did not expect it to be as aggressive as it was. And it shook me. It shook me because anybody who knows me and knows my work in the world, it's not my style. And it really caught me. And then I felt, oh my goodness, the break is going to go, and I feel so passionate about Katerina's work, and because obviously it's my lived experience. So I'm thinking about my father who I love and my brothers who I love, but also thinking of the men in my life who have put hands on me, and feeling like, oh my God, this voice is being shut down. And so in the end, I made a strategic vote. Not only did it put my book out, but it put the other Indigenous author at peril. And if I could go back and do this all over again, I would have still went out on the first day, because the way that I planned to vote was nostalgia first. So I still would have went out, but I would feel better about it. So I have, since the first day, voted according to how I think these books meet the theme, unless the debater can seriously change my mind on it.
I'll let you add in, and then we have one more question.
Just very
we'd like
quick.
to get
And
to.
I think what's been changing for me over this week is the idea of what does Canada need? And now for me is, you know, first it was like Canada needs a harsh lesson. Canada needs a wake-up call. Then it was like Canada needs a hug. Canada needs... No, but honestly, Canada might need to read a book, and Canada needs a laugh. Canada needs a pat on the back. Canada needs a spank in the butt, and every different books can accomplish that, and we need all of these things. And then it became a debate of urgency. Then it became, you know, especially on social media, it became, if you voted out the break, you have silenced Indigenous women. And that hyperbole, maybe I'm spending too much time in the States, that hyperbole didn't sit with me well.
But
me, this is not black and white. There's a whole lot more that exists in between this.
But just to be clear, and then I'll let you go back to your point, when I said that, it wasn't about it being voted
no,
out.
not you, not you. It was on the tweets.
But because it was about the argument that was made about there not being the male.
Oh, no,
and that
100%.
was-
And then
yeah.
for me today, it became, you know, I have made it public that both the books that were in existence, I've tried to vote them both out. What is important to me now? And I looked at it, I said, today I'm having fun. Today I want to also focus on art. Today I also want to focus on passion, energy. I also want to focus on what would be on my bookshelf that I can hand somebody, and then they read it, and they would want another book from me later on, being like, that was a good read. It wasn't too heavy, it wasn't too light, what have you. And I think the real debate at the end of the day is, what does Canada need? And Canada is one of the most diverse countries in the world. That those needs are going to be extremely diverse.
Okay, do we have time for the last question? Yeah, all right.
Hi. I have a
that's
question,
my section.
and I'm going to direct at Jody. My heart broke a little bit when your book was voted off last time. My heart broke a lot when The Break was voted off the first day. And I'm really interested in you as a politician, how you read this book, because I was reading it while the Trump administration was coming into office. And for me, that
which one? The nostalgia?
the nostalgia,
Okay.
yeah, that I was reading nostalgia at that time, and so the feeling of that wall between the two societies, the division of different social classes, the access to immortality. I'm wondering how you relate to that as a politician.
Okay, we have exactly 1 minute till we have to wrap. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Speed talk.
How do I relate to it? The future in nostalgia is one I would hate. Okay, that would put that right out there. But at the same time, like you're saying, the Trump administration came in under the Democratic vote of the nation. And so as a politician, I celebrate the fact that the 45th peaceful transfer of power happened in the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world, but maybe it was handed to someone that in 4 years, hopefully, will be a memory.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That was well
I'm
done.
sorry, guys. We got to leave it there.
Is that a minute? I never even got the bell.
Yeah. Is it Kevin? You tell me. That's it? Okay. All right. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to the studio audience. Thank you, everybody else. Thank you to the floor crew here. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much, Chantal. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Sending love.